Welcome, everyone, to Automating Success. I'm your host, Joe Langton. I have Josh with Vectis Automation with us today, and I'm really interested, as always, to learning your story, Josh. So go ahead, if you could, and introduce yourself to Automating Success's audience.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Glad to be here, and appreciate the opportunity to have this great chat. So, my name is Josh Pauley. I'm the VP of Business Development, lead up our sales and applications engineering teams here at Vectis Automation. Was a co-founder and am a co-owner of Vectis Automation. I've been in the industry, robotic welding industry, for about 12 years now. So started out actually as an intern at a traditional robotic welding company called Wolf Robotics. Then stayed on there after graduating. Was a field applications engineer, really cut my teeth, installing systems, implementing them, sweating it out down in Houston, making sure they're working, and doing what the customer needs me to do. So really kind of cut my teeth there, and got a lot of scars and experience on, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Went into project management, and then into a regional management role. And then in 2019, got together with some of my co-founders, and we started up Vectis with the idea of how can we make automation more accessible and more attainable for a broad variety of manufacturers, right? Traditional robotic welding options and robotic cutting options, there's some hurdles to them, right? There's cost and footprint and complexity and programming and training and all those different things. And so for many manufacturers, it can be out of reach, right? So that was our whole goal, is how can we fuse our experience in robotic welding, that good, the bad, and the ugly, with this newer collaborative robot technology. So that's kind of my background.
Listen, so how'd you come up with the name?
So it took a long time. One of those many things in a business that looks really simple when it's all done, but it was not easy. We had a list of, probably hundreds of ideas, some far worse than others. Many of those bad ones were my ideas too. But Doug actually came up with the idea of Vectis, and it was Latin for a lever or leverage. And that really fit with what we're trying to do on providing these tools that are easy to pull levers for manufacturers to multiply their force, right? And do more with less, and boost productivity, and allow humans to do more than they could just manually, right?
So that's great. I'm glad. That's a good segue for us for some of the questions I was going to get into, because, even when I was doing the research, it's like, I'm trying to figure out, okay, are you making are you just an end fabricator of someone's robotic idea, or, kind of get a little more into detail. I'm going to give you an example. So if I wanted to make let me back up. Who would be your target audience? Who are you trying to sell your services to or get in touch with?
It's a great question, Joe. When we started the business, the focus was definitely on the small and medium enterprises, right? The mom and pop shops, the folks with 10, 20 welders and stuff like that. Those folks were most commonly left behind by traditional automation solutions, right? Too many hurdles to leap. And then many of those companies are also doing, a higher mix of parts with lower volumes, right? Which wasn't always a fit for traditional automation as well. So that was really kind of the initial focus, was how can we bring automation to these small and medium businesses that haven't been able to get over those hurdles before. What's been interesting is to see how that's grown over the years. I mean, large enterprises, turns out, have the same challenges, or some of the same challenges, that small and medium enterprises do. Number one, can't find welders and skilled fabricators, right? For some of those large companies, they can't find skilled roboticists or programmers or welding engineers as well, right? So even the traditional hurdle on that side doesn't necessarily always make sense for large enterprises, right? So what we found over the last 4 years, and many hundreds of systems out there, is that they're going into all types of industries and all types of customer sizes. I mean, we're seeing, construction equipment, general industry widgets, stuff sold on Amazon, gardening, components, agricultural equipment, mining equipment, the defense industry, all sorts of stuff, right? All these different industries, and just general fabrication as well. Job shops, which I would kind of classify as its own industry as well, contract manufacturing. And then sizes of anywhere between, we've got folks where the owner or the owner's sons and daughters are the ones doing the welding, right? All the way up to Fortune 50 companies with thousands of welders globally, right? So it's really a broad range, but it's because the challenges that fabricators are facing now are transcendent across industries and company sizes, I think.
So is that what got, so you said, you were with somebody, you worked there for a company, I think you said 12 years, right? Then you started Vectis. What was it, because you wanted to cater to small and medium sized companies? What is it that made you say, hey, there's a need for our company in this space? Was it to cater to those small and medium companies at first, or what made you kind of branch off on your own?
Yeah, that was one aspect of it. I think key to it was, hey, there's this new collaborative robotic technology. And in my past life, my chapter was kind of coming to an end in that past life. So I was kind of looking for, hey, what can I do out there? Where can I apply my talents and skills and do some good things for the industry? So it was kind of a combination of me looking for a change, and then the combination of technology with collaborative robots really coming to a robust forefront. And then this idea of, there's this market need that I think that we can uniquely serve.
Awesome. So then explain to me, and by the way, the questions, realize when I ask questions, you might be like, why is he asking such a basic question? But this is getting listened to mostly on radio. So I'm trying to paint a picture for people. So the automation that you produce, is it like a welding arm? Like go in depth of what you're actually putting into the marketplace for these, it sounds like range of small, medium, and large type companies now. Are you automating like on an assembly line, or, how quick are you able to change things over? So,
yeah, great question. So at the end of the day, we're shipping out, we provide integrated cobot welding and plasma cutting systems, right? So what that looks like is we're pulling everything together, all these components. So we're using a cobot from Universal Robots. We're using welding equipment from Fronius or Miller or Lincoln. We're putting it onto a deployment method, and we have different options for that on a gridded Acorn table card, strong hand tools. We're providing the controls package, so getting everything talking together. And then really one of our key secret sauces is the software, right? So we're putting it all together, and then we've built the software platform to make it easy to use for manufacturers, right? So most of our customers are welding within the first day or two of receiving the system on their own, which is really kind of unheard of in capital equipment and automation. Almost always there was a tech going out. I was that tech for several years, right? There's a tech going out to install it and anchor it and train and stuff like that. So we kind of flipped it on its head and said, hey, can we create something that's simple enough on the software side, and then pair that with some unique permanent training tools like an online academy and videos and easy to follow user manual, to where customers, if they want to, can get up and going on their own. And that hypothesis has proven true. It's the overwhelming majority, probably 95% or more of our customers get up and going on their own. And if they want a little more, in-person time training, we can do that here, or we can go out into the facilities, their facility as well, to help out. So that's what we're providing. We're shipping out these systems that are portable, they're flexible, they're versatile, and customers are using those as a tool, as a piece of equipment in their business.
So so I'm going to give an example. So I have a robotic ball management system that I'm going to be a distributor of in the United States. Currently gets manufactured in the UK. I have to manufacture it in the United States now. Okay. It's stainless steel hopper, goes in the ground. So if I wanted to basically get your system to help me build that, do I give you the size of my hopper and everything that I'm building, and then you custom tailor the equipment for me? Or like, I'm trying to figure out how you link to these people. And I hope you like where I'm going with questions, but it's like, because out here,
great question.
Yeah.
And it's the one we get most commonly too, of like, hey, look, cool, I've seen all these marketing videos, I go to trade shows, but will this work for me? Right. This is what I make and all that, which is exactly where we like to start conversations too. our typical thing, it's not here's a quote or here's our spiel on why we're the best. It's what do you do, right? What is this stainless hopper? What's the size? What's the thickness? What's the weld joint type, right? Because what we want to first do is evaluate if it's even a viable application to be automated. And you may know this, Joe. I mean, there's a lot of applications out there that should not be automated, right?
Yeah.
They're, for a variety of reasons, they're inconsistent, or the weld joint type just isn't a fit or something like that, right? Or the volume isn't there.
I was going to say volume is probably the biggest thing. If you're not doing volume, what's the point? Is you're never going to pay for the upfront cost of the automation, right? So
it's been crazy. I would have 4 years ago completely agreed. No one's ever going to program one-offs with robots. You can't justify that, right? I've been proven wrong, actually, because the justification paths are kind of changing over time, right? So to your point, yes, the overwhelming majority of folks are still doing some level of volume. That's the easiest way to justify it, right? But we are seeing customers programming one-offs on justifications of quality. We've got a customer making these tanks. They get these lids on them, and they're hand programming each one because they can't get the consistency of the lid to the tank and all this other stuff, right? So they're saying, hey, go, operator, go in and teach these 4, 5, 6 points per tank, right? Which I'm like, you're going to hate that. It won't be justifiable. That doesn't make sense. But for them, it was, no, it takes as long or longer in the weld shop, but there's no rework. The weld that's laid down is a seal weld, and there's no, we don't have to rework it. So even if it takes as long or longer in the weld shop, we're saving buku amounts of time on no rework, right? And so to your question on, hey, if you had this hopper, right, what do we do? We first learn about that application, right? Send us pictures, send us drawings, send us models. Let's take a look at it. We're going to first evaluate it. Is it an application that's a good fit for automation? And then secondly, is it something that Vectis can specifically help with, right? So we've kind of got a productized line, which keeps it very affordable and serviceable. But that means that, not every application is going to be a fit for what we can do, right? And so we just have honest conversations with end users on, yeah, we can help here. This is great. This is a slam dunk. Or, hey, this is a tough application to automate by anybody, right? And you're going to be mindful of this or that. Or, hey, look, this could be automated, but it's not in our wheelhouse, right? And these are some great companies we know in the space that might be able to help you with that, right? So we kind of get rooted in honesty, right? Nobody wins if the customer's not making parts better, faster, and safer at the end of the day, right? We even back that up with a 30-day return policy, kind of putting that money where the mouth is.
Oh, that's amazing. So so are your systems, so it sounds like you kind of answered, it's not like a custom one size fits all type scenario. I'm assuming you have different models, but what it sounds like to me is you can be a smaller welder fabricator that's never been involved in automation, but you can get involved because your software is that easy to use, right? It's customer friendly software is what you basically made.
Yeah. So all of that and the cost of it, the portability, the size, and then the ease of use, all of that just lowering the barrier or lowering the threshold of volume, right? If you wanted to get a traditional cell, you're usually going to need to be doing thousands, tens of thousands, millions of them, right? Here we're seeing customers typically justifying 20s, batches of 20s, 50s, 100s, 500s, right? So exactly lowering that threshold to get the justification on it, right?
So then how did you achieve that? Like for me, someone that's like, I automate robotic lawn mowing, right? So how I was able to justify and get it in the cost structure that was needed was I just spread out the payments, looked at how long the unit could last, spread it out. So I'm assuming you figured out financing or a leasing model, or do you do it in subscription? What's your go-to-market strategy with these for getting people set up with them?
Yeah, multiple options. So to your point, we've got financing to help with customers' cash flow. We've got a rent-to-own program, really kind of meant to be a try before you buy. We finance that ourselves on allowing it to get into a customer shop and make sure it's going to work with their team members and with their applications and all that, and their consistency in their shop, but then also be able to buy that out, right? We apply a good chunk of rent to that buyout as well. And then we've got the outright purchase, which, many manufacturers, especially at the magnitude we're talking, around 100 grand, prefer that route. Hey, I'm not going to finance that. I'm going to buy it. Right. So, and I mean, at 100 grand, it's lower than most equipment in the shop. You know, you're talking about a laser cutting system can be, I don't know, they're coming down $250,000 to $1 million, right? You know, press brakes can be several hundred grand. So when you talk about, hey, cobot welder, it's actually potentially one of the lower cost items of a capital equipment in a general fab shop.
Yeah, no, that's great information. I mean, like I said, some of the questions I'm asking, I'm a little off my script right now because since I am in automation and I have podcasts called Automating Success, and now I have equipment that needs to get manufactured, I'm actually asking you questions like literally like a customer right now because I'm trying to learn. I mean, you said like, yeah, it runs of less than 20. Like I just ordered 18 units from the UK. I'm going to pay ridiculous amount of money in shipping. You know, I've got to do it on a 20-foot container. I really want to do it on a 40-foot container. But, you know, the thing that a lot of people are not thinking of, and I'm going to get into this with you, is everybody always assumes that, you know, companies in the United States want to manufacture out of the country. But I'm finding that personally not to be true. I mean, it costs a lot of money to ship things, takes a lot of time to get things, and then it forces you to buy large quantities so you have it in inventory. And I think a lot of companies are trying to reduce inventory holding costs and manufacture back in this country again, which is likely helping you guys, I would assume. Correct, Josh?
Absolutely. I mean, that's been a big driver. I would say that the reshoring efforts and then the labor shortage during those reshoring efforts are two major macro drivers to our business, right? So I couldn't agree more. And that's been a seismic shift for me in my career of like 10 years ago. Even you watch Shark Tank, right? Like Shark Tank 10 years ago, everyone's going, why are you manufacturing it here? Send it overseas, right? And that shifted on Shark Tank, right? And now it's, hey, American manufacturing, make it here, fewer shipping costs, fewer shipping hassles, and we could get into the data of overseas, you know, labor rates starting to, you know, equal out and stuff, and some of that. But at the end of the day, I think folks are thinking, hey, it's more manageable when it's in North America, right? When it's in the US. And so I absolutely see that reshoring happening. And we're having a lot of conversation with customers of, hey, this product is currently outsourced. Sometimes it's outsourced to contract manufacturers. Sometimes it's outsourced overseas. But because that business wants a little more control over their supply chain and their costs and their ability to do things, they're saying, hey, we want to bring that in-house.
You call your units cobots, right? Not really. And I like that because I think all too often people think automation and they think a robot, right? So I like that you call it cobot. So explain to us, you know, how your cobots help fabricators. You know? Yeah.
So cobot is a squishing together of collaborative and a robot, right? And it's the same style of industrial arm that's been used for the last 4 or 5 decades, right? It's 6 axes. It looks like a human arm. It's got a, you know, shoulder and a elbow and then a wrist and all that, right? So they look very similar to their 6 axes. What makes a cobot unique relative to a traditional robot is that there's safety built into the cobot itself, right? So on every axis, it's actually monitoring its force and torque. And so if it hits you, it stops before it can hurt you, right? And that is not the case with traditional robots that I've worked on. Those are, you know, usually 500 to 1,000 pounds, and they move quick. And if it hits you, you're going to know it. And your doctor's going to know it, right? Whereas a cobot, it hits me all the time, and we do that in demonstrations, and it just stops and it says, hey, I was using too much energy to get where I was going, so move whatever obstruction is in my way, and I'll continue after that, right? So what that allows is to literally break down the barriers of traditional automation, right? So traditional cells have caging and light curtains and interlocks and all this stuff that makes it kind of a monument in fabrication facilities, right? And so with a cobot, you can use it more flexibly, right? Because the cobot is inherently safe from its physical movements, right? And the other aspect you have is now you have process safety, right? So welding, high energy, UV radiation, but manufacturing shops are equipped to manage that already, right? Because manual welding presents the same process hazards, right? So if your operator is wearing the same PPE that they would if they were manual welding, and then you're protecting passersby from the arc flash through commercially available curtains and all the stuff that a welding shop already has, right? You're protecting both the process side in that case, Then you've also got the cobot that is safe in its physical movements as well, right? And the last aspect of cobots that make them unique, there's the safety side, and then there's the ease of programming, bringing that down, that barrier to entry for customers and operators of all types and sizes, right? So most cobots are also typically characterized by that easier and more unique programming interface, right?
So you brought up its force and torque metrics, right? So like what type of force or torque can your cobot like exhibit?
Yeah, so it varies beyond with different types of cobots and how their safety systems work. For ours, it's 100 newtons, which may sound like a lot, but really what you believe is maybe some folks on the podcast have been to a trade show. You go see a cobot, you run it into yourself, you're like, I feel like a little bump, right? So it's relatively low force and certainly nothing that's going to cause any sort of serious injury or death, right? Like a traditional.
So I was, let me try to redirect. So I was trying to figure out, okay, what type of weight and what type of things can this arm move around? Because what I always think is amazing in software and in what you guys have obviously done is take something that can be very strong, but make it have such good feedback, like feedback loops, that it won't hurt a human being. So that's kind of where I was trying to get without you sharing any IP, just to kind of let people realize what you guys have accomplished.
Yeah. And so, the cobot market, there's different cobots, so I can't speak to all of them. We integrate the Universal Robots cobot, and they've got varying levels of payloads and reaches, right? So the one that we most commonly use is a 12 and a half kilogram, about 27 pound payload capacity. So out the wrist, you can move around 27 pounds pretty freely and still maintain that level of sensitivity to stop before it can hurt someone, right? Now, with any type of cobot, you still have to do the process safety, right? So the cobot itself has a built-in safety, but if you're tossing around a flamethrower or knives on the end of it, the application is not safe, right? So every integrator like ourselves should be doing a safety risk assessment in accordance with the Association for Advancing Automation A3, RIA, or ISO standards.
Awesome. So that you answered that exactly how I was thinking right in my mind. Because, like I said, it's important. Like some of the people, and even myself, like I understand automation, but I don't understand what you're doing. So I'm just, like I said, it's, kind of want to make it understood to people. So,
and now you're automating lawnmowers?
Yeah. So Josh, I'll give you a little background on myself. So I went to school for small circuitry and analysis, right? So that's one thing about it. When cell towers were popping up every place, I was like, oh, I'm going to get a job with Motorola, right? So, I mean, literally. So I went to community college for that, became a union electrician. And ironically, I was hooking up when you're talking about the robots where you'd have the safeties and the cages. I still remember I did a job for a company called Ball Aerosol, and I was hooking up all the robots as a union electrician, all the different wires so the arm could pick up the sheets of metal. So everything you were telling me, I did it. I was the guy hooking those things up. But I hated it. I hated that career. And I hated it because I couldn't do what I'm doing with you today, which is talk. I would literally get in trouble at that job if I talked. They would literally be like, hey, you twisting wire nuts, or are you talking today? And I'd be like, that's the worst thing I've ever done. Yeah, I love it. So I had a guy get pissed at me one day because I said, hey man, I can walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. Like, I don't know what you're talking about here, right? So, and I actually, like, I let me go there because I answered back. I mean, that was the way it was for me. I didn't really like that career, but I saw robotic lawnmowers, so I started a snow removal in a landscaping company, and my gift of gab really paid off because customers loved it, right? So got a couple hundred people plowing snow, and hated the fact that I could pay people $30 an hour to plow snow, but could only pay them $16 or the time $12 an hour to cut grass. So when I saw automation in 2016, with robotic lawnmowers, first with
the wage difference is that high for plowing snow versus cutting grass, huh? Interesting.
Yeah, Well, huge, and here's why. Like, okay, so here's the reality. What market? Where are you call? Where are you at right now, Josh?
We're based in Colorado, so we get snow.
Okay,
And we cut
so you get it. Okay, so here's the thing. So snow removal, first of all, you have to be a certain level of crazy to want to do it in the first place, because you're going to be out working for 30 or 40 hours straight. You're not going to get any sleep. You're going to drink so much coffee, you feel ill from it, but you need to keep putting it in your system.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
Right.
It's an urgent.
Yeah. The level of urgency is like right now. So, so the reality is, you can bill a customer for that level of urgency. There's nothing urgent about cutting grass. And by the way, there's a lot of slip and fall liability in snow removal. So you can put that risk in the cost to say, hey, listen, will you work for me? Knock on wood, we're going to tell you you're not going to have a slip and fall this year. And that's it. In line cutting, they're just like, yeah, there's 500,000 of you out there. Wow. If you don't do it for this price, I'll find another landscaper. So, correct. Well, because the barrier of entry is very low. I mean, Josh, if you wanted to cut grass tomorrow, you could buy a pickup truck and you could go to Lowe's and buy the worst Cub Cadet you could find and say, hey, I'm in business. I mean, that's easy. So it's that crazy. So now I saw the robotic lawnmowers and said, okay, I'm going to automate the space. And that's what the inspiration with automating success, talking to a guy like you, because I literally saw it as everybody else saw it as, oh, this will never exist in this industry. But automation to me exists in every industry that has trouble bringing labor in. Either it's because the pay is not good, or the risk in the industry is high, right? So,
and I would add one more thing. It's dull, dirty, and dangerous, like it's boring,
And Josh, at the end of the day, our
lawn mowing is the same way of like, it's boring, how can I let the automation handle the most boring stuff of my day or my week, and then put my talents to where, the more interesting stuff, or the stuff that requires higher skill, the gardening, the pruning, whatever else it is in landscaping, right? Versus cutting grass.
And so those things you just mentioned are profit centers. So here's the thing that I speak about all the time, and this, we've kind of taken a turn here, but it's a good turn. The loss leader in my industry is lawn mowing. The problem is all companies have a loss leader, but in our industry, that loss leader accounts for 30 to 50% of your book of business.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is, if a customer doesn't mulch with you this year, you don't have the ability to pay for your loss. If it doesn't snow a lot, you're not covering your loss. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be crazy. I mean, literally, automated lawn mowing, I think, will account for $100 million or $100 billion in the next decade in automating that space. But what's happened is, by automating that, it's opened up so many other doors. I mean, now we pick up golf balls robotically. I'm washing golf balls robotically because the space can't find people.
Yeah.
And it's because our school system, if you were talking to a guidance counselor, Josh, and said, hey, I see what this guy, Joe Langton's doing. I think I'm going to go be a landscaper. They'd be like, no, you're not. Go to school,
I live this. My counselor did not ask, how are you going to earn a living after high school? They said, which university you're going to, I don't know. It's just what you did, right? But there was at my time, there was never any. What we should be asking is, how are you going to earn a living and be fulfilled and not be in, loads of student debt that you may not be able to repay, depending on the degree, right? So, yeah, I agree. I think not to rant on that, but I think there's a shift that needs to happen in our primary education system it's about earning a living and taking care of yourself and your future family, and that doesn't always include college. Sometimes it does. Where but doesn't have to.
For me, what I went to college for, I didn't start to use until 2016. I graduated high school in 97. So I was done with college in 2001. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it took, when you look at it, a decade and a half for what I went to college for to even be for what I started to use. Right. Yeah. But, like I said, do not stay on it too long. The interesting thing is, I get people constantly saying things like, oh, you're taking jobs, and what are you going to do about those jobs you're taking? And I'm sure, Josh, that's a good segue for you. I mean, even how quickly you laugh. I'm sure you do trade shows and people say this. But the people that say that are not in the business of hiring people.
Yes.
You know, the only people that say that are the employees that actually show up to work. And those employees have nothing to worry about, right? I mean, I heard you say something like 5 minutes ago saying that like the cobot is working and the person is working alongside and kind of teaching it the pattern, I'm assuming, right? Those people will just be teaching the cobot.
Exactly. And many of our customers, they're what we call the cobot champion. Their cobot champion is a welder, fabricator, grinder, right? And I think it's directly analogous to the lawnscaping side of things, right? The idea here is not to reduce jobs, it's to offload the boring stuff to the automation, right? So that your landscaping employee can set the robot down, it's mowing the lawn while, he or she's mulching or pruning or planting up whatever, right? Same thing on the cobot welding side. How can you offload the boring stuff, let the operator or the welder set up, the cobot to weld for its duration, and then the welder can go focus on the higher skill work. And one of my favorite stories, actually, that is exactly how this works out is, and it goes into what we were talking about earlier on the application evaluation and really guiding customers to success, right? There's a company, SuperVac, near us, actually, in Fort Collins, that makes fire trucks. They have a foundry, one of the coolest facilities I've ever been in. They make custom fire trucks for folks all over the country. And then they make firefighting equipment too, like smoke ejectors and saws and stuff like that, I think. And so, we looked at the fire trucks, and fire trucks are just an absolutely terrible application for automation. Will probably never be automated, right? I'm sure there's some applications like that in landscaping too, right? That no, it's always going to be done by a human, right? Because fire trucks, they're big, they're custom, they're one-offs, they're thin aluminum, they're a bunch of little welds all over this massive thing. Just doesn't make sense, right? So it's like, don't focus there, right? That's going to be a lot of struggle trying to automate that. And then over in a different part of the shop, they're making these smoke ejector fans, and each smoke ejector fan gets 140 tack welds, and they do like 100-ish a week at the time. I'm not sure what the volumes are now. So it's 14,000 pulls of the trigger that some guy or gal is just, doing every week, right? Just mindless, mind-numbing, miserable, boring job, right? And that's the holy grail right there. I mean, it's a beautiful, nice sized application. Throw that at the automation. That's what it's good at, right? Just like clipping 14,000 blades of grass, right? That's what it's good at. Now shift that skilled welder to running the cobot and programming and teaching the cobot and owning it. But then while the cobot's doing its thing, you can go focus on the fire trucks too, right? Which you enjoy doing more anyways, because it's the more
rewarding,
interesting and rewarding. Yeah, rewarding work, So
yeah. No. And yeah, I mean, so I've always said, like, anybody that's shopped at a retail store, you've been to a store where there's a lot of weeds every now and then, right? And that's in my business, that's what I have to manage to. And I'll have customers say, okay, Joey, the guy's going to pull the weeds, or the girl's going to pull the weeds. Okay, I talk to the manager and they go, yeah, because it rained a lot last week and we're behind on cutting. We can't not cut the grass. We'll get to the weeds next week. And then next week comes and it rains again, and then they don't get to the weeds. And they keep putting off the task they don't want to do, right? So now I basically took the excuse task away, which is the lawn mowing, and said, no, the customer focuses on this. Nobody likes to see a 12-inch tall thistle in the middle of the bed. Pull the thistle, the robot cuts the grass, and that's it. So, that's like in my industry, what we're doing and what we're dealing with. But what I find why I love doing this show, Josh, is the parallels are always the same in all the industries, right? In order for automation to exist in the first place, there has to be a problem somebody's solving. So like you just said, the mind-numbing, pull the trigger, because what I can tell you, that mind-numbing, I bet in quality control side, those pull the trigger welds are more accurate until after lunchtime. And then by 2:30 in the afternoon, when the shift's about ready to end, they're getting all sorts of problems later on down the line. Your automation doesn't tire itself out of boredom.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, right?
It lives off boredom. That's where it's,
yes.
It really does.
Yeah. So I mean, So that I'm trying to think. So I do want to still learn a little bit more because not all welding's created equal. So do you have a specialty? Like, do you guys weld certain metal specifically? So kind of explain a little more about Vectis.
Yeah, so what we primarily focus on is the MIG or GMAW wire fed processes, right? And there's multiple reasons for that. It's probably the most common shop welding process is MIG. It caters to applications that are readily automatable, right? And that's in contrast to TIG welding. TIG welding is, it's like pruning a garden or mulching. It's an art form, right? And it's tougher to automate. It can be automated, certainly. It's just the pool of application candidates is tougher when you go to TIG, right? Versus MIG and GMAW, it's a lot of general welding and more automate-ready applications, right? And when I speak of MIG and GMAW, that's solid wire, metal core, and flex core. All three of those types of wires are able to be welded with our system. So that's our primary focus. And then in terms of materials, I mean, carbon steel is the most common, stainless steel, aluminum. We weld exotics too, Inconel, Hastelloy, Monel. We've done some copper, things like that, right? So a pretty broad range of materials. Most of the stuff that's being welded with MIG or GMAW process currently is what we're doing as well through automation. But it really is application dependent, right? Like when I say aluminum is tough. It's a finicky thing to weld if you've ever welded aluminum. So we take a much more scrutinized look at, hey, will these applications be a good fit for automation? Can they be automated? And can our system be the piece of automation? And if so, is our system a good fit to help with it?
Awesome. So Josh, tell me a little more about yourself. I mean, you introduced yourself, kind of how you got in the industry, but tell me a little about your family, like background, kind of growing up, brothers, sisters, what your mom and dad did, learn a little more so people can learn a little more about Josh.
Yeah, I got an awesome family. Love my mom and dad. Got a younger brother. Grew up in Colorado. Went to CSU for school. Did mechanical engineering, and then went on and got my master's in business a few years later from Indiana University. Married to my lovely wife of coming up on 5 years now, Kira. So just feel blessed every day. No kids yet, but here in the coming years we will. We'll start that part of our journey. So just
what does Kira do?
She's a tax accountant. Yep. CPA tax accountant.
Oh my God. Talk about mind numbing. How does she do it?
I don't know. She loves it though. She really does. So oh, I got my friend. Not to be cliche, but I do view the Vectis team as kind of part of my, maybe not family, but this team is really important to me, this organization of great folks. And I feel a stewardship to them to, they've got families and all that. So I feel blessed to be a part of leading this incredible Vectis team.
So we share that in common. I say that to my people all the time. They're extended family to me. I show up to work with them every day because I enjoy being around them. And the value that we all create together is what keeps me inspired. So how many people are on your team, Josh?
We're going to be approaching 30 here shortly. So from few dudes in a garage 4 years ago to a team of 30 really focused and awesome professionals. It's a really cool mix of folks like myself that have been in the industry, have some scars, can help make sure that we're helping, to the point of to the name of the podcast, right? Helping customers be successful, right? Because we've kind of seen those, we call them boat anchors, where it's a traditional robot cell or any piece of equipment that's just collecting dust because either A, it didn't work, or B, it was not the right application, or C, it wasn't the right education and support, right? So we've got a nice mix of folks that have kind of had those experiences, but a lot of really fresh talent as well. We have a very active internship program and folks coming in that kind of have some new ideas and are excited to take care of customers, but at that right pace and making sure that we're always empowering success for our customers. So it's a really, really diverse team on experiences and all that. So it's a heck of a community. So
I see in the research, like almost when you take the people like 200 plus years of experience when you add it all up, right?
Yep.
Can I look that up properly?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's awesome with your customers. And then, I like that you brought up the interning and bringing the young people in because especially in automation, I found it's good. And for my company, as we exist also, you have some of the older people that can give feedback on how things were done without automation. But then the new people that come into my organization, since they've already been around technology, they've grown up with it, give you better ideas how to automate processes you wouldn't already think to automate. Do you
Absolutely.
find the same thing?
It's the balance of wisdom. Let's not do things that we shouldn't, but also, hey, let's see what we can do new, right? Let's kind of take some new frontiers as well. Really good balance.
Yes, awesome. So when you started, when you said, okay, I'm going to start Vectis, was there anything that changed business-wise in the original business plan or thought? And, how have you grown and adapted since you started?
It's a good question. So we got together in spring of 2019 and kind of had a good idea of what we were doing. Then COVID hit, right? So COVID hit, and a year later so we got together April 2019, but really kind of unveiled at FabTech in fall 2019. So, 6 months into our public unveiling, boom, COVID, right? So we really had to be smart and adapt to that new reality, as every company did, right? So it helped us get better. It helped us remain lean and smart and efficient, right? We looked for industries that were actually boosted by the pandemic, and there were some, right? Or either boosted or kept going, right? Agriculture, people still need to eat. We had customers in agriculture. Automotive aftermarket at the time was booming because folks were lifting their trucks with stimulus checks, right?
Roaching in the garage, yeah.
Yep. So we looked for those industries that we could help. That's part of the nice part about being diverse in the industries and types of customers that we serve, right? And so we kind of had to adapt and be smart during that COVID time, and then it's been growing ever since. Things have changed in the business plan. We're a big fan of kind of the long march, right? So don't make knee-jerk sudden reactions, right? So, hey, this is working well. Fuel that. Hey, this isn't working as well. Let's tweak it. Let's tweak it a little bit and see if that changes the thing, or tweak it a little bit more, right? Versus the full big swings of the pendulum from one side or the other, where the resulting data doesn't necessarily show you the full picture. So we've made tweaks and pivots as we go and continue to fuel the things that are working well.
I've always said you have to drive a business like you drive a boat, not a car, and you just kind of summed it up right there. I mean, if you got to make a small enough tweak and then see how it changes your course. You don't want to overchange, because then all you're constantly doing is
exactly. So it takes some discipline to keep it steady. And hey, that's one data point. Here's another. Let's make sure we have enough data points before we make tweaks, but also big changes too. So
how do you guys prospect and find your clients? You do it at shows. How do you reach out, and how do you acquire customers?
Yeah, a variety on shows and partners and folks Googling us and finding us on social media as well. So kind of a variety, kind of omni-channel.
So what do you think you've learned being in the industry in the past before you started? Like what's the one takeaway maybe you took from leaving and then starting your own thing? Like what's probably the biggest thing you learned coming over to start your own company?
It really is all about the people. That's what makes an organization grow and thrive or struggle. It's really all about the people. And so we take a lot of care at Vectis on making sure we treat our team members with respect and dignity, and empower them to make decisions and learn and support our customers, right? And if you take care of your team members, they're going to take care of your customers, as long as that's ingrained in your culture. So I think that's the biggest continuing learning I have, is it's all about the people. And it's amazing what a team, a highly motivated, jiving team can do, right? No matter how small it is or how large it is, right? So it's really all about the people.
Yeah. And Josh, I love that the way you answered that question, because that was the thing for me before I owned my own company was, kind of realizing the different leaders that I kind of operated under before I took the leadership role on, how much easier it was for me to show up to work when my ideas and input were appreciated versus the days I just had to show up and just do what I was told with and don't ask me any questions, because I couldn't get out of just weird feeling of just not feeling appreciated. So I mean, I actually took the same thing for the short period of time I worked for someone else also. That's when I started and said, okay, it's got to be about the people. So I love the answer, how you answered.
Start with respect. That's the foundation, and it's put your ego away, put all of that stuff away, and just build a foundation on mutual respect, right? And there has to be a hierarchy of decision-making, of course, but build a foundation on respect. And that's what I believe in, and that we're propagating Vectis onto. It sounds like you as well. So that's the big difference, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my next question was, how do you align your team's vision with your leadership vision? But I'm assuming that's pretty easy because you're just internally collaborative, right? I mean, you guys are always working together as one unit. True?
Yeah, that's the goal. It's, a lot of people, especially with social media, they see everybody's highlight reels, right? And we're not perfect, and we have good days and bad days, but at the end of the day, it's how can we build a foundation and a culture of respect to where we're all rowing the same direction. We're all taking care of each other. I was watching one day, just observing, and kind of the anthill is what I called it, of how we just go to solve something really quick, right? We get behind this and, hey, customer needs help on this. Let's, that person's out, that person's traveling, this person come in and help, right? And there's this anthill to make sure that we're taking care of customers and working together as a team, right? And I think that's what's really, really impactful. So it's all based in a foundation of respect for one another, and then that mutual goal of let's kick butt in the marketplace. Let's help customers. And nothing, honestly, we have kind of an internal intranet and just love sharing the, texts and emails we get from customers on, hey, look what we welded today, man. We got one on Wednesday that said, hey, we were up and running in 2 days and we just 7x'd productivity. We did a week's worth of stuff in a day. Now I can focus on some other things, right? So that kind of aspect of, hey, we're a mutually respectful team working together to help manufacturers do things better and reduce the mundane and reshore products to the United States. It's a noble purpose.
So what do you think is probably the thing that's makes your company the most disruptive, and maybe disruptive is the wrong word, but what are you doing different than your competition with the team you built at Vectis?
Yeah, we were disruptive to the industry when we started out. I mean, we were one of the first to do cobot welding, kind of the first commercial success in the U.S. So it was disruptive to, traditional mindsets of thinking about automation. And we've certainly seen other competition come in, right? The Oscar Wilde line, imitation's the most sincere form of flattery, right? But I think what's going to, not to be cliche, I think what's going to make us different continuing on is the people, right? And the experience, and that ability to take care of customers, both through technical innovation, but also just doing the right thing, just doing what you say you do, maintaining a high level of service and customer focus, right? Sometimes it is the basics and the simple aspects, right? Of taking care of customers at scale and continuing to build technological innovations.
So do you have any new up and coming innovation you'd like to share on today's show?
Yeah, we've got a few things. They're behind the black curtain still for now, but we're going to be unveiling them this summer and also at FabTech coming this September in Chicago. So we got a lot of exciting stuff in the pipeline coming out that's just going to enable more applications and possibilities for welding fabricators out there.
So what Josh was telling you, stay tuned to what he's gonna unveil.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you when you said it. So your wife's a tax accountant. So usually I say to people like, do you cross any lines? I mean, does she do your company's taxes? Like, do you guys work together at all in the business, or you guys totally run separate? Like, do you cross business with personal at all at home?
No, she doesn't do our taxes, keep that clean, but we do have, philosophical conversations on taxes and what about this, from time to time. So bit nerdy, a couple of nerds at home and over a beer. So,
yeah. So for me, my daughter works with me. She's 22. She's 22 going on 40. I mean, so far ahead of the curve. I'm so proud of her. And my stepsons are in the business with me, and literally my fiance now I call her sons my stepsons already. I've been with her for a while, but she's actually in the business. So for me, the entire organization is like, half of AOS is family. So that's just why I asked, it's like, I always feel like very fortunate that I get to show up to work with my family and my work family,
Yeah.
If you were starting all over again, is there anything you would change?
Nothing major, like I said, little tweaks and pivots that maybe you do sooner or don't do at all in hindsight, but nothing major. It's been a heck of a journey and I feel grateful and blessed.
Would you have started Vectis any earlier? Would you have sacrificed, do you think you started Vectis at the perfect time of your life, or would you have started any earlier?
I don't think I would have changed a thing. It was great timing and feel grateful to have done it with my founding partners and the team that we've built. So yeah, it's been a blessed journey.
So then hearing that, at the end of the day, I mean, you're a young company, but what do you want your legacy to be with Vectis? What do you want to being that you're a disruptor, you kind of got started. Now you have competition following you. Like you said, it's almost flattering, right? What's your legacy? What's your mission to accomplish in this industry, in the space?
Yeah, for me, I think it's pretty simple. The legacy of just doing the right thing. It kind of sounds cliche or boring, but doing the right thing by employees and team members, and treating them with respect and dignity, and providing I take a lot of pride and purpose in providing a great place to work that you don't dread going to every day. Again, there's good days and bad days and tough days and awesome days, but at the end of the day, it's, a place where folks don't dread going to work every day, right? I take a lot of pride in that, and that's something that's important to me personally. I know my fellow partners on providing a great American business and a great American workplace. There's a lot of pride in that legacy, and then helping manufacturing get better. I think society as a whole benefits from being able to produce manufactured goods at a lower cost and in higher quantities. We've all benefited from that, so I think there's a noble purpose in helping manufacturing get better, easier, safer, get, welders away from fumes and the monotony of, some of the boring weldments out there. So I think those two things, providing a great place to work for our team, where they're respected and taken care of and treated well, and then helping manufacturers get better.
Well, and I think, so I think first of all, that's great legacy, answer. And secondly, I think that to expand on knowing what you want to do, you bring manufacturing back to the United States, and that's how you can do it. Everybody talks about how, going back to Shark Tank, how do you compete with, lower labor rates in other countries? Well, automation takes care of that, because you can let the people in the industry still make the wages that we all want them to make in the United States, and let the robot, the automation, the cobot do the heavy lifting for that.
If you can produce 3 or 4 times as productively, you can afford a 3 to 4x higher labor rate, right? Which benefits everybody.
Correct. Yeah. So I think that's a perfect spot to end on then. Everything, you've answered everything perfectly, in my opinion. Josh, I just want to thank you for being on the show. It was a pleasure to have you. You've opened up my eyes to some of the new things in the manufacturing world with automation. And I hope you enjoyed the hour as much as I did.
I sure did. Thanks for having me, Joe. I always enjoy chatting about this and seeing the parallels to, the landscaping business too. So, landscaping business. So thank you.